Hi, I'm Dean DeMarzo.
And I'm Tori DeMarzo.
And you're listening to Relatively in Tune, where we talk to musicians and the people close to them. Today's guests are Ali Schwartz and her husband, Seth Borkowski. Ali's a singer, songwriter, and performer in New York City with over 10 million streams. She's also a dance teacher.
It's very cool.
And her husband, Seth, is a writer, podcaster, and paranormal enthusiast. He has a brand new podcast called The Spiritual Skeptic. And without further ado, let's jump into the episode.
I'm Ali Schwartz. I'm a singer, songwriter, dancer, performer. Live here in New York City with my amazing husband, Seth Borkowski.
So nice.
And I've been singing and dancing since I feel like before I can talk. And I'm super excited to be here today. Thank you both so much for having us.
Definitely agree. And my name's Seth Borkowski. For work, I'm actually a sales manager. I work for Cash App. And then I'm also currently working on a podcast that's just about to launch. It's called The Spiritual Skeptic. It's about all things like paranormal with a little comedy twist.
Nice.
And yeah, super excited to be here. Thank you for having us.
Awesome. Could you talk a little bit about how you met?
Yeah, definitely. We actually both used to work at Yelp in sales, and we were on the same team. We both went to the same high school and grew up in the same hometown, but we never knew each other.
Oh, wow.
Our sisters were the same age. They were in the same grade, like knew each other. They had mutual friends. We have mutual friends. His best friend was the delivery boy at a restaurant I waitressed at, like all throughout high school. So like so much overlap. Anyways, go on.
I mean, yeah, there just had been this sort of like random crossing of each other's paths. Like I remember seeing her at that restaurant, but like, didn't register like, I'm going to marry her in 15 years. We were like super young, but so then we were on the same team at Yelp and we both got assigned the same territory in Philadelphia and we were both like trying to hit our number. So we had an idea like, let's go to Philadelphia. For her, it was business. For me, it was like, this is my chance. And that was like 8 years ago.
Wow.
So yeah, that was technically our first date.
I remember on the trip, he was like, this is a date. And I was like, no, it is not. I'm here to do work. Like, no, and I'm super professional and wasn't interested in office romances. But hey, fate had other plans.
Yeah, I guess we've learned I'm not professional, apparently. Yeah, meant to be, I suppose. Thank you, Philadelphia.
That's so sweet. I'm glad it was a collaborative thing. It could have gone differently if it was like, we had the same territory. We were trying to meet our numbers. So I had to make sure she was not, she was out of the picture.
Had to sabotage.
Ali, so I've been digging through your discography, your music. You have worked with so many incredible producers. I want to know what your process is for meeting and working with these artists.
That's such a great question. I am so grateful for all of the incredible people that I've worked with, especially the fact that a lot of them are international. And so the opportunity to work with people that you don't necessarily get to meet in the office or more organically, I'm really grateful for. So I work a ton with this incredible producer. He's also a great singer and songwriter. His name is Robbie Rosen. He was on American Idol about 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And he has had a lot of success in the EDM space. So I started working with him, writing songs with him, and he also introduced me to that EDM space. My roots are a bit more like true to pop soul, pop funk. And he really operates in that EDM world. So he opened a lot of doors for me. I have to shout him out. And then over the past 3+ years, I've been continuing to keep that plate spinning in the EDM world. So anywhere from like doing top lines for other DJs and producers that reach out to me, or I create a song and then think about who maybe that would be a good fit for as far as their style. Like there are so many subgenres within the genre of house music, dance music, and I'm still learning about all of them. Some of them I'm like, wait, what is like house dubstep remix part 2 radio edit? Like there's like genres within genres within genres. But in terms of working with these amazing people, sometimes I'm reaching out to them, sometimes they're reaching out to me. A lot of times Robbie is a mutual connection and will help facilitate that as well.
It's really all about those connections and sometimes it's just like that one track where you're featured on and then the calls start coming in and it just spreads from there. Yeah, that's fantastic.
For sure. And I felt that way with a couple of different songs too. You never know what like the one is going to be, but sometimes I think we're all our own worst critic, especially in the creative space. So a lot of times I'm like, oh, I don't love the way I hit that high note on this song, or, you know, hindsight is 2020. So like, I feel like I should have, could have, would have done like a different storyline or like edited these lyrics, but then like the song takes off and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I need to stop being like so hard on myself, because then it, like you said, it'll open other doors.
Was there a particular song, a particular moment that was like a big inflection point for that?
Something in particular are a lot of the Christmas songs that I did, both this past year and then the year before that. I really love Christmas. My last name is Schwartz. I'm a little Jewish girl. Don't celebrate Christmas in that way. But I just love like the holiday spirit, especially here in New York City. Like I just love everything about kind of like that time. And so I was getting a couple of requests for Christmas top lines. I don't typically do covers because I love to write. And of course, in terms of like royalties, when you're doing a cover, like you're not getting any of the writer's share. So it's a bit apprehensive despite loving that time of year and the holidays. And my first song to ever hit 1 million was the Christmas song from this past year. So that was like a really big milestone for me.
Wow.
And
That's awesome.
I think it just goes back to like you never know. And these Christmas songs are a little bit like the gift that keeps on giving, because my song from 2 years ago got a ton of streams this year, and the song that just hit 1 million will get a ton of streams, you know, at the end of 2025. So I'm grateful that like those will kind of keep on getting streamed.
They're long-term investments. They're lifelong investments.
Yeah.
That's great. There's a word you've been using a lot, top line. That's a like insider music industry term. Maybe a word that people aren't from. Have you heard top line
nope.
before?
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about what that means, what the process is, what role that plays in the process?
Yes, for sure. I'm glad you called that out. So there are like 101 million ways that you can write a song, and I'm still testing and discovering new ways as well. One of the ways is what we refer to as top lining. So as a top liner, a producer has a track and a beat, and you kind of come in and write something specific for what they want. So they might have ideas about a storyline, or they might just have this beat that they've created and they're really jazzed about it and they're like, take it and run with it, or anything in between. And so a lot of times it could either be a collaborative unpaid relationship, or it could be a paid top lining relationship. So by definition, I guess I would just say that it means someone wants to hire or bring you on to write something custom for their track. So for example, like a cover song or the Christmas song wouldn't necessarily be considered a top liner or top line. So it's kind of coming in, creating something for a track. The caveat to that is it totally could be done the other way. Like I could write a top line knowing that like this is something I write, and then I want to see which collaborators I can get onto the track to then create a beat for it.
I wanted to go back a little bit and kind of hear your story from the beginning. You said you like music, singing, dancing when you were little. So how did that develop over time?
So I'm so grateful for my parents who exposed me to the arts from such a young age. My dad actually just retired. He worked for Disney on Broadway for almost 40 years.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
So incredible, Disney theatrical. So he was doing a lot of the behind the scenes. He's not an onstage guy. He always says he prefers behind the scenes. So my sister and I, he would like pull us out of school when he was going on tour, and we would like, I just have these vivid memories of sitting in these in theaters and watching the live arts. And I feel like that sense of community, that grit, that hustle, like watching them in rehearsal, I had like the heart emoji eyes from like a very young age. My sister also, I mean, she's also incredible and has so much talent. But I feel like that was like instilled in us. We joke, we blame him. We're like, it's because of you. We want to be a pop star because of you. So I feel like that was really just a part of my upbringing, which I'm so grateful for. And then as I got older, I pursued a more like traditional paths. I like studied business at college, but I always kept my love for the arts. I kept that plate spinning. So in college, I led our competition dance team, and I was always like writing songs and had like a notebook filled with songs, but I never necessarily thought to do anything with them. And then fast forward to working at Yelp and pursuing again that like traditional career path. I started in sales and then moved into like events and conferencing, directing and managing small and large scale events. And then I feel like that fire for an excitement for singing and songwriting and performing was just like festering in me. And so I like started to take that more seriously and started to outsource production and just get my foot in the door with different relationships there. And I also teach dance for a local studio to, again, like keep that going.
Seth, how do you feel about dating somebody who's so deeply involved in the music industry?
I love it. I'm a writer as well, and I guess I'd call myself a creative. So I think we're always kind of, like she said, like very harsh critics of ourselves, and maybe sometimes that's worked out in the creative process. So I've kind of always found her integration into that space to be very inspiring because it's kind of scary. I think that singing is a very vulnerable thing in some ways. For you guys, you're probably like, no big deal at all. But like,
No, I get it.
to me, even like karaoke is scary in some ways. So I think to see her put herself out there, and then also to like take an idea and actually like have it come into fruition. Like, I feel like I always had so many ideas. You know, I have like the next funny joke. If I used to do like stand up, like there's always something sitting like in my iPhone notes that maybe, you know, is just an idea that doesn't come to a conclusion. So to sort of witness someone right in front of you, like, you know, full circle do it, and regardless of what the results are, one, have optimism towards it, and two, you know, just hit like stamp the project is complete. It's like, wow, that's really cool. Maybe I can do that too. So I find it very inspiring.
That's awesome.
You said you did stand up. I could never. You said
talk
you were
about
so
vulnerable.
nervous
Oh my God.
about being on stage. I could never.
I guess that's a fair point. I didn't expect that response. No. Stand up, I don't know. I guess to me, I always just found singing to be like very, very vulnerable. Stand up is vulnerable too. Like you kind of get up on stage and you tell a joke, and then 4 seconds later, if you're not funny again, like everyone's staring at you like, hurry up. So I guess I've experienced something in the camp of that similar vulnerability, but for some reason, I always just found singing in particular to be like stand up on steroids or something like that, just from my own perspective.
And I leverage Seth's comedic abilities all the time. Like when I'm putting on shows and I'm writing that like patter or banter for the in between the songs, and like, okay, how do I'm not funny at all. So Seth definitely
Not true.
He teaches me the way. And I did a big end of year show in December, and I had Seth do like the opening monologue. He was just like a voice of God from above.
Oh, I love that.
And it happened, to his credit, he probably would have done like a full stand up or just like intro routine, but last minute like the house guy who was just gonna say like, now we welcome to the stage like Ali Schwartz, he was like, I get stage fright and I can't do it. And we were like, no, just say it like voice of it. And he was like, I can't, even if you write it for me. And I was just like, Seth, you want to do it? Like, and we're talking like 48 hours before, and he had everyone hysterical laughing. He put everyone in such a good mood before I took the stage. So
That's awesome.
That's so hard to do. Like, you have to give yourself credit, because we used to gig, and
Oh my God,
the
stage
stuff
banter
that,
is
like,
impossible.
Came out of both of our mouths. We're
Well,
just
you
like,
would refuse to say anything.
I didn't
You'd
want
be
to
like, say something to the audience.
Then
Talk
you'd be
to them.
like, and like,
Hey guys,
it was so bad. It was really awkward, and just like, oh, let's just sing before they say something. Like,
Yeah, my internet humor is not meant for the Sunday afternoon wine crowd.
no.
Very different audience. I want to hear about your podcast, because in the bio Ali sent me, I was like, oh, he's got a podcast. I'm going to check this out, and it's not out yet, but I'm excited to hear it.
Thank you. Yeah. I have a trailer out, which is like a minute, but tomorrow actually, so convenient timing.
Perfect.
Yeah. The first episode drops, and it's mostly about aliens, if we're just cutting to the chase. I'm super interested in like all things paranormal, extraterrestrial. I think that there is a lot of crossover. I think that's often maybe not realized between spirituality actually and extraterrestrials. I think a lot of the times it's kind of like portrayed like aliens like in a creepy way, like in a world, like, and I'd hope to approach it in more of a humorous way. I think I mentioned this to Ali recently, but on my sales team, like a lot of the time is like when we do pitches and stuff like that, if we're trying to sell someone a product, the conversation can always be a little tense because they know we want something, and we're trying to persuade them. So I'm always trying to tell them like just infusing a little bit of humor can really just break the ice, break the tension. So I feel like for some reason, and maybe it's relaxing as time goes on, but the conversation around extraterrestrials is always like strongly resisted by a lot of people I've noticed. And I have to kind of like almost like be careful of like who is my tribe that's down with this conversation and who's not at all. Like my mom, like, I mean, don't bring it up to my mom, like get that out of the house. So, it just depends. But yeah, so it's sort of a fusion of some comedy and a little bit about all of those fun topics in the paranormal world. And it's called fittingly the spiritual skeptic. So
it's really good, you guys. It's
Yes.
probably biased, but yeah.
No, it's really
I can't
good.
wait.
It's really
Yeah. So feel free to check it out. Would love that.
Have you ever been to the convention? There's is it a convention festival, whatever it is, right near my hometown. I don't know exactly where. Is it like Ellenville or something similar to that? Have you ever heard of it? It's like
Pine Bush?
Pine Bush, maybe. It's one of the big alien conventions here, and it's right in like upstate New York. Like if you're in the city, it's an hour and a half, 2-hour train ride. Have you ever gone?
I haven't gone, but I'd love to go.
Yeah, you have to look it up. It's usually like I think in the spring, maybe. I don't remember, but I remember seeing it in the paper like every year about it. And one of my coworkers is like really fascinated with it too. I don't remember who it was, but I was like, oh, okay. I
remember hearing Pine Bush was like the UFO capital of
I think it might be
New York or something, which I guess is a title, but
Yeah, no, I've
right up here. Like,
apparently. Yeah.
yeah, you have to
make
check
my
it
way
out.
up.
You could do a remote episode at
Yeah.
the festival. Have you guys ever considered writing something together?
Good question. I guess not until this moment.
I lean on Seth for a lot of like during the show, in between the show, things like that. And also if I get out of a session or a virtual session that I'm on, like a quick bathroom break, I'll be like, we're looking for a title and the song's about A, B, and C. Like I'll put him in the hot seat and on the spot. And I'll be like, what about, you actually came up with the title Burning Bridges. One of my favorite songs and most streamed songs. We're between a couple different titles, and I was like, Seth, what about a song that's about ABCD? And he's like, what about Burning Bridges? And I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
So you're making me realize I don't leverage him enough, though. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. No, I'm on the hot seat.
I'm always interested to see how people in relationships, if they work together, what that looks like. Like this is what our work together looks like.
Yeah, well, and gigging, we did gigs
Yeah.
for like 8 years, but
That's awesome.
I'm in a very different position than you are. Like I do a lot of communication stuff behind the scenes, like, and you are very much on camera all the time. Like this is even really hard for me to do, like a podcast or whatever. But
Good job.
Great job.
technically
Yeah.
went to school for it, but never wanted to be on camera. So I don't know. Like, what is that dynamic for you? Like, have you ever struggled with trying to make your schedules line up, or like maybe not connected on the same level creatively at points?
I have to say, Seth and I spend, I feel like, more time together than the average couple. We spend a ton of time together. Even before the pandemic, like I was working at events, so my schedule was a little wonky and working from home a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And then he's been working from home 100% of the time since the pandemic. So our schedules I feel like one of us has always been home. So it's not like, I think that's helped in terms of like line of schedules and making sure that we have time for each other. But Seth is the most supportive person that I know. I just got back from LA literally
Yeah.
2 days ago. I went for a music conference and I was like, Seth, you should come with me and we can like turn it into a vacation. And of course, by vacation, I meant I reached out to like so many different people and singers and I was like on the go the entire time.
Yeah.
And just like Seth made it his own and saw friends and did writing and improv and different opportunities on his end. So yeah, I think that balance can be hard, but we've been fortunate enough from like a logistical scheduling perspective that our work has led us to spend a lot of time. But Seth is very easy to be around and very supportive. Like I, out in LA, met with an amazing singer collaborator, and we like had one of those like magic moments that I feel don't actually happen that often, where it's like we wrote the song in an hour. When I hear people say that, I'm like, okay, like did you really know? But we had one of those moments where like wrote the song really quickly, and we're like, oh my gosh, okay, let's like release it soon. Let's film some content for it. Like it's happening. And so I was like, like I was like, Seth, like, can you come take behind the scenes content? Can you come meet us an hour away from where our hotel is and like follow me and this 22-year-old around while we like run around. Meanwhile, we're singing about a love song. The song is called Bonnie and Clyde. Like, and Seth's just like, sure. He comes. He obviously adds his like amazing humor to like what's a little, it's not tense by any means, but like we're on camera, everyone's a little nervous. So anyways, I'm just talking about how great Seth is. But your question of like some of the challenging times, I don't know. What would you say?
I think she kind of nailed that. I don't know how much more I have to add. I would say that we're fortunate scheduling wise. Like I do work full-time remote. I also think that in the past apartment we had, it was like limited space. I think there was always kind of this desire to get out.
Yep.
And find maybe like a cafe or just somewhere to get like a respite from, sort of like that COVID lockdown feeling of like, I just need some fresh air.
Yep.
So we were a little lucky to find like a slightly larger space, especially in New York City. It's hard to do. We looked at so many apartments and we got lucky. So I think that having a little bit of extra space, me being full-time remote, I think just like some of the stars aligned, which allows us to spend more time together, which is great.
That's so real too. The house we spent COVID in, it was a little tricky for working from home. I had to walk through your office to get anywhere in the house.
I've worked from home myself now for like 5 years,
Yeah,
6 years.
Same here. Even before COVID, you were working from home.
Yep.
I quit my job 3 or 4 years ago to go full time with music, and now we're both here all the time.
Yeah. So very similar dynamic,
Yes.
but
where we live is not as interesting as New York City. There is not as much to do.
yeah, you can't just get out and walk down
anywhere.
the street. It's kind of like,
And it's cold out right now, so there's just like nothing.
yeah.
I will say Seth does help ground me, and he wouldn't be at fault if he was annoyed by sometimes I have a little bit of a lack of awareness of when my personal energy battery is dwindling. Like I'm a little like go all the time. Like, oh, I'm not feeling well. Who cares? Like I'm a little overly dramatic in that way, which is great, especially with music, because I could like last in a 18-hour session and be like, oops, forgot to eat. Like I'm one of those. But then all of a sudden I don't feel well for a week and I have to cancel it. Like, so I don't have great balance when it comes to that. And so I can imagine that Seth is potentially like, yo, what the heck? Like, relax for a second. Don't get yourself sick. Don't get us sick. And I know in LA, I was a little under the weather.
Yeah, for sure. We got, well, I guess we're talking about this now. She got food poisoning from a restaurant and was absurdly vomiting, like on the side of the street. And I'm just sitting there being like, I don't know. We actually went to this like tea shop and we did like a flight of tea, which is not a good thing to do.
It's not what got me sick.
No, the tea shop was great.
That's good.
But yeah, if they're listening. We love you guys. But so then she like just yacked, and I don't know. Like it's a good reminder of like what do you do in that scenario. Like I found out after we're 8 years in that she doesn't like to be touched when vomiting, but she does like my proximity. Yes. She wants to know I'm nearby.
Yes.
She's the same.
Die, but like, really?
Yes.
Same way. Like he'll come and like sing a song to me
If she's
because
really
I'm freaked out. I'm like, sing the song, and our song is Dave Matthews. It's like it's just one
singing
of the
ants marching in
and
the
he just
bathroom at
sits
2
there,
in the morning.
Yep. And I'm like, okay, I'm okay.
He wakes
Wow.
up in the morning.
Yeah, that's impressive. I will probably not be singing, but maybe we'll be thrown into the fire. And hopefully, you never puke again. But
Yeah.
but then, so after this happened, she was supposed to do like an open mic at this conference we were at. So in my head, I'm like, clearly you're not doing an open mic. Like, we need to go home. And
That wasn't
lay down.
obvious to me.
And she was like, so should I still do it? And I started laughing because I thought she was joking. But so that's like kind of what she's like sometimes is like, I think she gets from her dad too. Obviously, she mentioned is just the coolest dude of all time, by the way. But
Seth has a man crush on me.
oh, totally. No
good.
problem
That's good.
admitting
That's
that. I hope he listens. I have a man crush on you, Cliff. Whatever your word is, you always come through on your word is like a big philosophy in her family, which is obviously a good one. In my family, it was like, cancel as soon as you get the opportunity. But so if she says she's going to do it, she's going to do it. Even if that means I just puked outside of a really cute tea shop, I'm still going to do it. So for me, like, watching it from my perspective, you know, I get nervous for her because I'm like, I don't know if you're thinking, you know, all straight upstairs right now. Like, let's take a step back. But maybe that's just I don't know, the musician's way.
It is.
It is.
Okay,
He got sick so bad one year, and he had this gig where he had to perform in a pit for a musical, but the pit was up on like a loft, so he had to climb stairs to get on this loft.
Yeah, it was a tiny little like black box theater with this jury-rigged loft 20 feet in the air above the stage.
But you were the sickest I've ever seen you. We've been together 14 years, and at the time, I had to call his parents because I was so scared.
I hallucinated my way through Jesus Christ Superstar on guitar, and
but he
then went home and slept. Yeah.
And it's been like that ever since. I mean, you'll get sick and you'll still go. You'll have a fever. You'll have like, I don't know, COVID, flu, whatever, and still go. I mean, within the reasonable like time frame. But
I was socially distanced on stage for New Year's Eve when I had COVID. Yes.
That's good.
But still, and I'm always just like, I would never. I can't.
Did you play the open mic?
I did not.
That's a good call. That's good. That's good.
I did not.
It was the first of many rounds of puking.
Yeah, I would have if it was just that one incident getting sick. Because I had like a few hours.
She was like, "Oh, I feel better." You kind of get that high afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, "Oh, I'm fine."
Yeah.
The eye of the storm.
Yeah, and I'm like, "I'm not fine." Like, like, am I okay? Like, I guess you are. I'm not. Like,
but that was round one. So we actually called we spoke about my dad. My mom is also like this Energizer bunny, super spiritual, very cute little 73-year-old woman. And I called my mom, and Seth at the time was like trying to get one other person to like on your side because he just thought it was so ridiculous. So I called my mom.
It's a funny sales pitch. I'm like, no one's gonna say yes. Little did I know. Yeah.
I called my mom, and she starts kind of like qualifying me. She's like, "Well, how are you feeling now?" And Seth was like, "What the? Like, how is it not like an immediate like don't do it?" Yeah. And her advice was to do it. She's like, "You're there. You're in California. That's why you went there. Do it." And I was like, "Yes, that's see." But then like 20 minutes later, we like pulled over again. So you know,
The balance is so important of knowing when to pull back, putting boundaries on when you work as a self-employed person is something I have struggled with a lot. It's something caused a whole bunch of problems in our relationship and our marriage over the years.
For a while, yeah. I mean, not like,
No, but it's still something I have to be really mindful of like, she has her day job working 9 to 5, and that's when I work too. And we try real hard to keep it to that.
Yeah. Obviously, there's like, you know, if there's something that you want to do, that's totally fine. But we like plan for it. We try not to catch by surprise, really.
Right. And it used to be that I would just like disappear till 11 o'clock at night, and you'd be like, are we hanging out tonight? Are we?
Yeah.
So it's really good to have that balance, like you're saying. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that there's been some finessing and fine tuning, and if the current dynamic with me pursuing music full time was like the scope for when we first got together, I don't know. Like, I'm sure we would have navigated it just fine, but also I think like the way in which we met, like we met like in an office environment. We were not only on the same schedule, but on the same team. So like we're seeing each other a lot. So I think like that also just helped us because as we have grown over the years and taken part in different like activities, and with me now being full time, which is fairly recent, just a few months in, we've been able to like really like we know each other so well at this point. It wasn't like this was a huge shift that happened like day 2 of us dating kind of thing, which I think has helped us navigate.
And Seth, how do you feel about her going full time as a musician? Like, what was going through your head during that?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, like we were both working like a very traditional, you know, corporate 9 to 5 path. I think there's always like the dream, or what if I could do something different or unique and, you know, make money off of it and not have to sell my soul. No, okay. But like,
no,
you know,
I get
what if I can escape this and kind of forge my own path? So I think as opportunities started to present themselves in more succession, and, you know, Ali like doesn't give herself enough credit, like with the top line and DJ connections that you mentioned, or artists, there's so much outreach and networking and putting herself out there and reaching out to people and working when she's tired and forcing herself to push through, kind of like when you go to the gym, like, let me do 1 more or 2 more reps, let me reach out to 1 more person. And a lot of times it's just like silence too. And then all of a sudden, like, you know, when it rains, it pours kind of thing.
Yep.
So I think there was just like a moment, almost like a climax of like, maybe you could go for this. And then from my perspective, it's like, how many people get that opportunity? Like, you'd be crazy not to give it a shot. You can always, not that you can just waltz back into another job, but you have the skills and the corporate experience to, leverage that should you want to walk back into that world, or should we financially need it. But, we have some savings, and give it a shot, give it a whirl. And on top of it, if you're then making money from it, then that can also kind of help bolster us along.
Yeah. I'd love to know from Ali, as someone who also quit their job to go pursue music, what was the point where you like made that decision, where it flipped over?
Ooh, it's such a great question. So I was at Yelp for almost 8 years or even longer, and then took another really great opportunity. And it was just a really tough adjustment for me, and the role wasn't what I anticipated. This company was also like, had admitted that, like, I was in a brand new role. I wasn't a backfill. So it was very messy, which I'm actually really great with. Like, I can kind of come in and tidy up. But I think that they thought they needed this like really senior position, and what they actually needed was maybe like a couple of like interns and associates. And so then I was left with kind of like that workload, and I left with this really great senior position at Yelp, where I had like a lot of tenure and a lot of respect that I had built over my career. So that was also festering, as far as like not getting even slightly lit up by like my day job, and also not feeling like I was leveraging the skills and the experience that I had. So it was almost like a little bit of a double whammy. And so, I mean, it was really Seth who was kind of like again, I'm not good with those boundaries of like knowing when I'm kind of like work till you drop, which isn't the way. Like, that's not the way to sustainable, like healthy lifestyle or great mental health. But he was kind of like, by the way, you're not happy. And like, happy is the baseline. I'm a very positive person. Like, like that's my baseline. Like, something bad happens and I'm like, we'll figure it out. It happened for a reason. Like, I have a quick bounce back rate. Like, I'm just like, go, 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 happy, happy, happy. He was like, by the way, like, you're not. And I was like, wait, what? I'm not? Like, yeah. Like, so I almost just didn't realize, because I was so like, new job, like, keep it going, like, growing pains, whatever, like, push through at all costs. So Seth kind of helped me realize, and then we just discussed over the course of a couple months, what would that look like? And I think really it wasn't necessarily this moment of, let me go like pursue the dream. Like, I wasn't like hitting my own golden buzzer. I actually left because I was very unhappy. And the thought was, let's just take a breather from that role. And maybe it's music full time. Maybe it's finding a corporate job that does light me up, because I really do love managing a team and running events. Like, I'm very good at that, and I do like it. So it was more like, this really isn't for me. Let's take a break from that and see what happens. And then it became very clear just a couple of weeks in. I remember talking to my dad. He's like, how's it going on the job front? Is it a tough market right now? Like, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm like supposed to be applying to jobs. I forgot about that, because I've been just like, and when Seth said it rains, it pours, like right at that time, it was just like the universe works in mysterious ways. Like, things were coming up. I was the busiest I've ever been in terms of like interest in music, and opportunities seemed to be flowing to me. And I was like, let me just, why am I gonna like sit here and interview and update my resume? We obviously had to sit down, look at finances, if like this is gonna be a long-term break, and what that looks like. And once we felt secure on that, then it was like, okay, like that's just our reality right now. We booked a conference in LA, like we're just going. And I think that's what we're doing for now. We had talked about, is there a timeline? Like, oh, I'm giving it a year, giving it 6 months. We haven't really put I don't want to put it in a pressure cooker or any parameters. No. Like, if we can financially, and it continues to light me up and works for us, then why not, is kind of where we're at.
Yeah, putting a timeline is the worst thing you could do. We've tried putting timelines on things before, and it's like the worst thing, because your brain just latches onto it, and then
there's no benefit.
You don't give
yourself
feel
bad the whole time.
Whether it's good or not, it's just like you're so focused on it that you can't actually focus on what needs to be done.
Yeah, so. I think people get really caught up in like defining things really clearly, when like life is going to take a whole bunch of turns.
Yep.
And you're gonna refactor when it does, and actually your story mirrors mine so closely. I was working at my job for like 10 years.
Yeah.
It hit a point where I was feeling so unappreciated, and YouTube started to take off, and it was just that same kind of
Except
timing.
We didn't really give you that, like, we're just going to take the time and take a break from what you're not enjoying and just see what happens. I think you were very much like, this is how much I can make from this. I'm going to continue to do this.
I was more analytical with it, yeah.
But I think we needed that because I was not going to be able to support us if something were to happen at that time.
Yes, I was carrying the whole household at that point, and I waited until I was making more on YouTube than at my job for 6 months straight.
Yeah.
And then I jumped.
But it was great because now you're happier and you make way more than you ever would in the other job anyway. And you do what you like. Every day you're like, I want to go to work. I'm sad it's the weekend.
I know. Talk about bad boundaries. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
That's amazing.
That's the dream right there.
Yeah.
It is. And it's awesome that you've had so many great hits with the top lining work and the singing. Like you said, those are such long-term investments. I've heard it said that like writing a song is like buying a piece of real estate that you just own, and it's out there, it's on Spotify, and it's going to keep getting plays just basically forever.
Yeah,
that's a cool metaphor.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. I love that. It's true. And I think a lot of times if I'm writing a song, we'll call it like for me, so it's not necessarily a top line. I'm not going to go like pitch it out to different DJs. It's just something I'm feeling called to write, and I want it to be part of my discography, part of my just artist project. A lot of times it could kind of just feel like, well, like, why? And maybe that's just like the artist creative brain in me. I'm like a why girl. I'm like, well, why am I even doing this? Or like, why am I? Sometimes I get too caught up in the top lining, which is incredible. And there's demand there, and I could like find a home for these projects that like these EDM labels want to sign. And it's like that employee-employer mindset. But then when I'm doing something for me, as I'm like, my own business owner hat is on, I'm like, well, why? Like, why am I even doing this? Like, why would I even write this? So I love that analogy of the real estate. It's like something that I can own and quite literally own, because a lot of these collaborations, I'm giving up at least 50% of the song, usually more. So these indie projects, not only like something that's my idea and that I love and that I have creative control over, but then also like I own this piece of art for forever. So that's cool.
And that distinction is huge, because I do a lot of production work for other artists, so I know exactly what you mean. There's ones that are more work, like employer-employee, like you said, and then there's the ones that are really for your own fulfillment. Do you have a roadmap, any big goals for your career as Ali Schwartz?
For sure. I really want to continue to dabble in different genres. I do a lot of the EDM and dance, which is great. I love pop. I would love to make like more pop funk. I love like good funk, soul, like some of that grit, like a little hint of R&B. So going to things like the music conference we went to and just collaborating with artists that are like really doing their thing in that genre, and then like being a part of it, being a featured artist, almost like what I'm doing at the EDM within other genres, is like something I'm really excited to do and really hone in on my own sound, and then eventually work my way to like my first EP. But other things on the horizon, like resolutions for this year, I'm really chasing my first sync opportunity. So for folks listening, that's when your song gets used in a TV show, a movie, a video game. There's so much benefit to that level of exposure. So I'm really working on that. And I have a bit of intern mentality, reaching out to music supervisors. Usually they have a budget to pay for songs, but I'm like, take my song, you can use it for free. Like I'm just trying to like collect that first sync opportunity, which was another goal and the whole reason actually of going to that conference, meeting with those types of people. So that's on the horizon, continuing to build my fan base. I think a lot of the incredible listenership that I have is a result of some of those other producers and DJs that have kind of like this core fan following, which is incredible to get to like dip my toe and have exposure to those waters, but continue to build like my own community and nurture that community and watch that grow is ultimately the main goal in all of it.
Who are some of those influences that you were talking about? Because you say you love pop, soul, funk, music. Like that is my favorite genre, like, clearly from all of my posters. Who are some of your influences?
I would say as far as like folks that I'm listening to today, I love Lawrence. I'm obsessed. They are amazing. They're oftentimes like my reference songs when I go to the studio. Like they are crazy. Gracie's vocal agility and ability. I mean, I could do an hour just talking about her. Like
me too.
I'm obsessed. Okay.
My favorite band.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We should do like a side episode about them.
Yes.
Over them. So I love them. I also love like the vocals on someone like Tori Kelly and the like swagger from someone like Bruno Mars and Mark Ronson and
Yep.
and like bringing just like that grit to the pop scene. I love Lizzo. I love like the messaging in her music. I love how she can create like a power pop anthem that isn't cheesy. That's also like very real. So those are a lot of influence. I mean, I love Michael Jackson's music. I feel like I have a broad range, which makes sense considering like I have worked within so many genres. But as a dance teacher as well, I feel like that kind of like pop, soul, funk is what lights me up. It's what I get most excited to teach to. So I think that's just like also in my like brain and body when I'm thinking about what music I want to make.
That's so cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. No, I totally resonate. My whole playlist is everyone you talked about.
And you're in the right location for it too. I mean, everyone in that scene is in New York. That's it.
Yeah. I'm trying to weasel my way in the background,
Yeah,
like
working in the
trying to do like
background.
communication stuff for people in that scene or just like in general, just like making friends and connections. Nathan, who sings with Lawrence in their acoustic stuff, is my vocal coach. So I'm just like
nice.
trying to get in any way I can. So yeah.
awesome.
Do you have a favorite song of Ali's, Seth?
Oof.
I have one.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's going to say.
Well, I mean, speaking of Michael Jackson, there's a track she's going to be coming out with called Atmosphere. That's almost like Dua Lipa meets like Michael Jackson kind of vibes.
Nice.
I've always like had a vision of Ali being in a jazz club, like lights down low, kind of doing like an Amy Winehouse kind of thing. And she's more like, let me do a pop anthem, which I love too. So Atmosphere is really good. Her latest song, Fancy, I really like a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got every single song, you know, on the liked and on my Spotify playlist. But I feel like as time has gone on, she's gotten a better understanding of like what her voice is almost, like who like she is as an artist. And I feel like the songs she continues to come out with are evolving, I guess, in a way. So the most recent tracks are like super, super exciting.
Awesome.
So cool.
And yeah, Fancy is my favorite. I love it.
Oh, there you go.
It's exactly that kind of electro house. Like that's all I do. I love it.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else that you want to promote, both of you? I mean, you have your podcast coming out tomorrow, which is great.
No, I've promoted enough. Promote
So go listen to the Spiritual Skeptic. By the time this episode airs, it'll be out. So if you want, let me just talk about it for a second. If
Go for
you
it.
want to laugh at what some consider a taboo topic and just hear about what's kind of going on, what are the conspiracy theories around UFOs and how does it connect to spirituality, then you should absolutely tune into The Spiritual Skeptic. And there's a really unique story about how Seth even got into this topic because he was previously not really spiritual. And without going into too much detail, his dad passed away a few years ago. He saw a medium and she cured his IBS. And that is like the precipice for how he became more spiritual and like the podcast and how his dad came through and et cetera, et cetera. So I'll leave those breadcrumbs and the listeners should absolutely give The Spiritual Skeptic a listen.
We're definitely going to listen.
Yeah,
I think I'm going to like, hopefully, because we have a big road trip coming up in like May and all we do is listen to podcasts, whatever. So I want to like build them up and have just like a ton to listen to in May when
We're driving to
go.
Texas.
We
from
drive to
New York.
Texas, we drive to Florida. Like, so we are in the car for I think 99 hours this year.
That's good. That'll be fun.
Wow.
So yeah, all based on like music stuff he's doing. So
Yeah,
I'm
doing
trying to
some tours.
gather up as many things as we can to listen to for these things. So
Yeah, that'll be on it.
yeah, that is on my list. I am very excited.
And Ali, anything you'd like to promote? Oh,
So Atmosphere, which is Seth's favorite song, which I didn't know, but that does make sense.
It's a jam.
It's very groovy, very like silky, sultry, sassy. That is coming out on March 28th.
Oh, nice.
So it'll be on all streaming platforms. I worked with this incredible producer called The Past, and he has a lot of influences from Michael Jackson as well. And it was co-written with Robbie Rosen. So the three of us kind of went to work on this record, and I'm really proud of it. So March 28th, Atmosphere.
That's very
that's
cool.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This was wonderful.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for having us.
That was so much fun talking to them. They're both so nice, so funny.
I know, it really felt like I connected with them a lot. Like, I felt like we had a lot in common.
Yeah, so much of our stories went the same way, especially both of us, breaking from our careers to pursue music full time.
Yeah, it was really awesome.
As always, if you like this episode, be sure to subscribe to Relatively In Tune Pod on all social medias and rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Until next time, I'm Dean DeMarzo.
And I'm Tori DeMarzo.
And this has been Relatively In Tune. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.